So, flatwounds or roundwounds on a fretless bass. Now, I've noticed that a lot of people seem to have the idea that you should only use flatwounds on a fretless bass. And so I'm going to do a comparison now between flatwounds and roundwounds on this particular bass, which is a Sire Marcus Miller V7 vintage fretless bass. So I've actually always preferred the sound of roundwound strings on a fretless bass. I have flats on at the moment. This is an active bass. I've got it switched onto passive mode, so I'm not using the preamp at all. I'm just using volume, tone and pickup blend. So at the moment I have the back pickup on full and the tone up. So it sounds something like this. Same thing with the tone off. So let's listen to that on a roundwound strings. So I get a lot of questions about what kind of strings you should use on a fretless bass, and I think a lot of people have the idea that you can't use roundwound strings on a fretless bass because it's going to cut up the neck or something, because they're a bit rougher than the flatwound strings. I mean, in a way it makes a lot of sense to use flatwound strings on a fretless because there's no friction when you slide, so you get no squeaks or anything like that. But I prefer the brightness of the roundwound strings, and a modern fretless bass neck should not cut up with roundwound strings. I mean, I think you'd have to be really rough with it to make the neck cut up. If you think back to the kind of good old days when Jaco Pastorius was playing, I mean, he wasn't playing a bass that was designed to be a fretless bass. He took a fretted bass and he took the frets out of it. So he was playing fretless bass on a fretboard that wasn't designed to be played like that. But modern fretless basses are designed to be fretless basses. The finish on the fretboard, you know, in almost every case is going to be strong enough to protect against any potential damage from the friction. So yeah, I prefer the roundwound strings, slightly brighter sounding. Flatwound strings are a bit more kind of vintagey sounding, a bit duller sounding. I tend not to use brand new roundwound strings on a fretless bass. I don't need them to be that bright. So what I'll tend to do is, if I've got a fretted bass where the strings are not old but they're just not quite as bright as they were, I might move those strings onto a fretless bass and put new strings on the fretted bass, and it just saves me from wasting a set of strings. So the roundwound strings that I'm using in this video, they're partially used strings. They're not brand new strings. So that's the comparison. Anyway, so let's try on the middle position. So we're going to put that pickup blend into the middle. So we're going to use both pickups together, turn the tone back up, sound something like this. And now with the roundwounds. And finally, we'll put it on the front pickup and have a listen to how that sounds.